Gunpowder, treason, and plot should never be forgot. That's how it goes, or something like that anyway. And while various people and organizations and authorities would like us to forget, we don't. Unfortunately, we weren't that successful once upon a time. A papyrus was discovered in probably early part of last century, maybe the previous. It was carefully cut into 4 pieces and found at the bottom of a refuse dump in the Ramesseum. And what it showed was something that the authorities at the time, 3,500 years ago, did successfully ensure was forgotten until then. I shall do a little dramatization of my interpretation of this amazing piece of court transcript. Is one of many possible interpretations, I might add, but it's the one I quite like. It is known as the Hareem conspiracy of Ramesses III. Pharaoh must die. Those were the words that Queen Tia, second wife to Ramesses III, threw across the room to Pebenham, chief of the Hareem. He was nervous. Those words were treason. But he was willing to hear her out. Tia elaborated. He's the king. The great Ramesses III follows his father, the great king, but he is nowhere near as great. Egypt crumbles. We have invasions in the north. We have famine, bringing striking of the workers. That is unheard of. We will have civil war soon if this is not resolved. He needs to go now. Even his heir with his first wife, Queen Tai, I feel will only continue this corruption of a dynasty. We need a new dynasty. My son, for example, should sit upon the throne. And I have a solution. Pebenham leans in. She withdraws from her pouch on her lap wax dolls. I learnt these from a woman I had smuggled into the palace. She was old, but wise in the ways of magic. With these dolls, we can control all the guards, all the officials. Nothing will stand in our way, and the king will die. Pebenham knew the risk, but he had to agree this was a high risk, but worth it for the greatness of Egypt, and of course, what was in it for him. Vizier, that'll be a bump up from head of the harem. He agrees, and Tia gives him the orders to spread these dolls around the court, for he has clear access to the whole palace, whereas she, even though she is a minor queen, is always watched. But Pebenham can go anywhere. Well, he whispers in ears. The dolls are spread out, and tension rises within the court. The magic is worked. Courtiers, officials easily slip in to the conspiracy against the king. And on the fateful day, Pebenham returns to the bedchamber of Queen Tia, and they sit alone and await the assassin's blade. On the other side of the palace, Queen Tai, first wife, great royal wife of Ramesses III, paces her bedchamber. She senses there is danger in the air, and suddenly she is drawn to a chest that sits upon the side of the wall. Opening it, she stares in and withdraws the broken parts of another wax doll. This time, the wax doll is of Pharaoh. She holds the broken parts and nods to herself. It has begun. Carefully, she places the wax doll back into the chest and closes it before calling and summoning her bodyguard from outside. She confirms with this burly, sword-wielding, huge man. Have I the loyalty of the guard? He nods. Double the guard, treble the guard. Pharaoh's life is in danger this night. Be on alert. Well, Pebenham and Tia sit anxiously within their chamber, their ears straining for any commotion that can be heard within the palace. They both fidget and wait hour by hour. And then there is noise. Shouting. Is that the sound of metal? It's getting louder. They both stand. They both approach the door that leads to the corridor. And stepping out slowly, they're soon greeted by the sight of a man hurtling along the corridor towards them. He is pursued by a horde of guards waving their swords and charging after him. Tia is alarmed. Will this assassin reveal their involvement? She nudges Pebenham. Do something. Make sure he does not talk, or it'll be our throats that shall be cut. Pebenham withdraws a dagger and steps towards the assassin as he hurtles towards them. The assassin slows, seeing the dagger in Pebenham's hand, but it's too late. Debenham steps forward rapidly and stabs him in the chest. They both slide to the floor as the guards surround them. But from within the crowd, a figure parts them. It is Queen Tai. She looks down upon the body blood-stained body of the assassin. And at the two, Pevenham and Tia, arrest these two for conspiracy to kill the king. Well, the trial, if you can call it a trial, is really just a series of executions, with the two accused in place. Everybody else just kills over. No matter who they were tortured. Some, mostly, were executed in horrendous ways. Some, with more higher rank and able to barter, just had their noses cut off. Others, those closer to the conspiracy, were forced to take their life. And as the last two stood before Ramesses III to enact his final judgment on the two main bodies, he shows great anger and disappointment at these two close confidants. Pevenham is left screaming, for he is no noble, so he shall just be beheaded and burnt with no afterlife. But for the royal wife, she of noble birth, father of one of his children, her only avenue is to take poison. Great first royal wife, Tai, standing beside her husband, the king, holds up the vial of poison and takes it down the steps to where Tia kneels, trying very hard to not cry or show any emotion, to make you strong to the very end. But her hands are too weak, too shaky to take the poison. So Tia, got Queen Tai, kneels beside her and pours the poison into her mouth. As Tia's breathing begins to struggle and the poison does its work, Queen T whispers, "Thank you for the diversion. It was me in disguise that taught you how to use those dolls. They are good, aren't they? You have diverted attention away from my part in the death of the king. For I have similar views to you. He must go. And my son will take the throne years ahead of his time, and me as regent. And he will die by my hand tonight. Sweet dreams, my queen."